Stop listening if you're comfortable believing this lie. If you think wealthy Christians are blessed because they are rich, you've already missed the secret, because the Bible never teaches money first. And the verse I'm about to reveal is never quoted in prosperity churches. Not because it's weak, but because it exposes the entire system. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some believers stay broke no matter how much they pray, why others quietly multiply wealth without chasing it, and why one forgotten verse controls everything: money, peace, power, and influence. But first, we need to dismantle what you've been taught. Stay with me. The verse comes later for a reason. Why most Christians never escape financial struggle. Most believers don't fail financially because they lack faith. They fail because they were trained to seek effects instead of causes. They pray for money. They fast for increase. They sow, hoping for returns. But the Bible never promises multiplication to chaos. And that's the problem no one wants to say out loud. The wealthy believers you never see on stage. The wealthiest believers are rarely on pulpits. They don't shout about blessings. They don't sell prophetic seeds. They live quietly. They move strategically. They understand laws, not luck. And every one of them builds life around one internal principle, not an external promise. We're getting closer now. Why the prosperity gospel fails even when it works. Even when prosperity teaching produces money, it fails. Why? Because money magnifies who you already are. If your soul is undisciplined, money becomes a weapon against you. If your mind is unstable, wealth accelerates destruction. If your spirit is shallow, riches expose it. This is why Scripture warns before it rewards. The verse they skip every time there is a verse almost never preached during financial breakthrough services, not because it contradicts blessing, but because it sets a condition, and conditions don't sell miracles. The real order of blessing. The Bible always moves in this order. 1. Being. 2. Thinking. 3. Doing. 4. Having. Modern preaching reverses it. That reversal is why believers stay trapped. Why God withholds money from good people. This will offend some, but listen carefully. God does not bless dysfunction. He withholds what would destroy you. If wealth would amplify your pride, fear, lust, or chaos, withholding is protection, not punishment. The inner gate that controls outer flow. Everything visible flows from something invisible. Money follows mastery, provision follows order, increase follows alignment. The verse we're building toward explains this perfectly. The misunderstood definition of prosperity. Biblical prosperity was never about luxury. It meant stability, sufficiency, expansion with peace, influence without corruption. That's why most modern definitions collapse, why fast money leaves fast. Anything gained without internal structure eventually escapes. Lottery winners prove this. Sudden inheritances prove this. Emotion-based giving proves this. God builds containers before He pours. The verse finally revealed. Now listen carefully. 3 John 1:2 says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers." That's it. That's the secret, and most people completely misunderstand it. What this verse is not saying. It does not say, prosperity creates soul growth, money causes peace, wealth proves righteousness. It says the opposite. The true equation. Let this sink in. Soul prosperity, life prosperity. Not the other way around. Your outer life can never exceed your inner order. Why this verse scares false teachers? Because it removes shortcuts. You can't buy soul discipline. You can't sow character. You can't fake alignment. This verse demands transformation, not transactions. What soul really means in Scripture? The soul is mind, will, emotional governance. It is your decision-making center. Money obeys decisions. The three pillars of soul prosperity every truly wealthy believer builds: 1. Wisdom. 2. Self-control. 3. Focus. Miss 1, and wealth collapses. Wisdom, seeing reality accurately. Wisdom isn't intelligence, it's discernment, the ability to recognize bad opportunities, fake blessings, hidden traps. Why wisdom always comes before increase: because money without wisdom creates loss. God doesn't reward ignorance. Self-control, the richest skill on earth. Self-control is delayed gratification. It is the difference between spending and investing, reacting and choosing, consuming and building. Why most believers stay broke here: they pray against temptation instead of mastering discipline. Prayer without self-control is noise. Focus, the rarest wealth trait. Focus eliminates leakage. Distraction drains income. Clutter drains peace. Noise drains clarity. Why busy people are usually broke: because movement without direction wastes energy. Focused people compound results. How the wealthy use this verse daily, not by quoting it, but by structuring life around it. They ask, is my soul stable enough for this decision? Is my discipline strong enough for this responsibility? Is my focus sharp enough for this opportunity? Why prayer alone is not enough. Prayer aligns you, but discipline sustains you. Even Jesus practiced solitude, restraint, and focus. The hidden danger of financial miracles. Miracles without maturity create dependence. God prefers systems over surprises. Why God builds you before He builds for you: because character is the foundation wealth stands on. Without it, collapse is guaranteed. This is why some sinners prosper: because they follow principles even without faith. Principles work regardless of belief, but faith without principles fails. Why holiness without order still struggles. Spiritual passion without structure burns out. God is a God of order. How this verse exposes false breakthroughs if your soul is chaotic. Any increase is temporary. That's the test. The most dangerous prayer you can pray: God bless me, without asking God prepare me. How to begin soul prosperity today. Start with daily discipline, thought governance, emotional restraint, time control. Small order creates large flow. Why this takes time and why that's good: because slow growth builds permanence. God is never in a hurry. The difference between rich and wealthy: rich, money, wealthy. Systems. Soul prosperity builds systems. Why most people quit before results show: because transformation feels boring before it feels powerful. This is where most viewers drop off, and that's why few experience change. But if you're still here, you're different. What happens when soul prosperity activates? Clarity increases, opportunities multiply, stress decreases, provision stabilizes quietly. Why peace is the true measure of wealth. Money without peace is poverty in disguise. The final warning of 3 John 1:2, you can't bypass the soul, ever. Why this message is never trending: because it requires responsibility, not hype. What Satan doesn't want you to know: discipline breaks spiritual cycles. Why this verse works in every area: health, relationships, finances, calling. All obey inner order. Your life is not stuck. Your soul is untrained, and that can be fixed. The choice in front of you: chase money or build the soul that attracts it naturally. The final revelation they never taught you. Listen carefully now, because this is where everything finally comes together. For years, many Christians have lived with quiet confusion. They prayed, they fasted, they gave, they believed. Yet something always felt blocked. Not cursed, not abandoned, just stalled. And the reason was never a lack of faith. It was a misunderstanding of order. God never designed wealth to be chased. He designed it to follow. Follow what? Not prayer alone, not belief alone, not confession alone, but inner alignment. This is why the verse in 3 John 1:2 is so dangerous to shallow preaching, because it exposes a truth that cannot be marketed, rushed, or emotionalized. It tells us plainly God is willing to prosper you. God desires your increase. God is not against abundance, but He has one condition: not money, not miracles, not manifestations. Your soul, not your church attendance, not your public holiness, not your spiritual language, your inner government, your thoughts, your discipline, your emotional mastery, your decisions when no one is watching. Here is the revelation most people never hear. God will never allow your external life to outrun your internal order, because whatever outruns the soul eventually destroys it. That's why some people receive money and lose peace. That's why others gain influence and lose themselves. That's why sudden blessings often end in sudden collapse. God isn't slow, He's careful. And once you understand this, frustration turns into clarity. You stop asking, "Why hasn't God blessed me yet?" And you start asking, "Who am I becoming right now?" Because the moment your soul becomes stable enough, disciplined enough, focused enough, wise enough, increase doesn't need to be forced. It arrives quietly, naturally, safely. This is the secret the wealthy believers understand. They don't beg God for money. They build the person God can trust with it. And once that happens, nothing can stop the flow. Now the responsibility is yours. Not the preachers, not the churches, not the systems. Yours. You stand at a fork in the road. One path is familiar, chasing quick blessings, waiting for financial miracles, hoping the next prayer, the next seed, the next breakthrough moment will fix everything. That path feels exciting, but it leads back to the same place every time. The other path is quieter, slower, less emotional, less visible. It's the path of soul prosperity. Daily discipline when no one applauds, wise decisions when temptation whispers, focus when distraction feels easier, self-control when indulgence feels justified. This path doesn't promise instant wealth. It promises something far more powerful: stability before abundance, peace before increased character, before influence. And that is the path God honors. Let me ask you something important. What would change in your life if your soul finally caught up to your prayers? What would shift if your discipline matched your faith? What doors would open if your inner world was finally ordered? This video wasn't meant to hype you. It was meant to wake you up. So here is your moment, your declaration, your line in the sand. Comment below and write, "I choose soul prosperity, not money first, not miracles first, not shortcuts first, alignment first." And if this message exposed something in you, if it challenged what you've been taught, if it gave language to something you've felt for years, then this channel is for you. Subscribe, because every video here is designed to rebuild the inner life so the outer life can finally stand. Remember this: when the soul prospers, everything else has no choice but to follow. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and let God trust you with more.